What is happening, people? It is Brian Alsruhe, neversay.com, and I get at least one email a day from someone starting a home gym wondering what equipment they should buy. So of course, the obvious answer is if you're gonna do like the big four movements, at least if you're watching my channel, then obviously you're gonna need a barbell with a bunch of weights. You're gonna need a rack to do squats and bench out of. You're gonna need a bench to do bench with. And then you're probably gonna need some dumbbells or some loaded dumbbell handles. Those are pretty much the basics that you're gonna need. However, almost everybody knows that already. That's not what people are writing for. People want to know after those steps, what are the next pieces of equipment that they buy? So typically my answer always ends up being it really depends on how you're gonna train. If you're more on like the strongman side, I'm gonna give you one answer. If you're more on powerlifting or more on CrossFit or more on like endurance or whatever you're about, that's how I kind of answer it. So for this style of training, what I thought I'd do is just walk you around the gym and explain to you guys the top 10 pieces of equipment that show up almost every single one of my workouts. If not every workout, definitely sometime during the week, I will use this piece of equipment. So if I were to start all over in a garage, these are the first piece of equipment that I get after the barbell, dumbbell, bench, rack, basic stuff. Now, luckily for you, I did stick this in a countdown fashion, so it's gonna be very, very interesting when we're talking about gym equipment. Also guys, if you haven't noticed, down in the description, I've started laying out the video in like a timeline type of section. So if you guys want to jump to certain places or you guys want to come back and research something, you'll be able to see a list of what's kind of going on in the video. And hopefully you guys won't have to miss certain things because you get tired of listening to me and you can jump forward to where you want to be. So don't watch here if you don't want to be here. So I threw that in now so that you guys can kind of jump around to where you want to be. Now let's talk about some equipment. All right, so piece of equipment number 10 on my list of things I use all the time is the Swiss bar. Now, the Swiss bar is actually something that I didn't start using until about a year and a half ago after my shoulder problem. So, man, I can't tell you how much this thing has helped to take stress off my shoulders in both the bench press as well as the overhead press. Now, I do not like it as much if you're trying to simulate a log. I do not think this does a good job of simulating a log. However, for something like a pin press, you can use all types of different grips and angles for hitting different ways. It's great for drop sets, it's great for close grip bench press, and of course, because of the neutral grip or the semi-supinated nature, it is so much better for my shoulder. So this thing is a staple on my bench days, on my overhead press days, for my assistance, on my main work. It's something that I'm always using and I would highly encourage that you guys do it too. It is also great for rows, especially things like seal rows, and just hitting your back at different angles with a barbell type of form instead of dumbbell, which can really change the game. So definitely something that I use all the time. That's number 10. Number 9 on our list are the farmer's handles. Now this is kind of a fallback exercise for me. Whenever I don't know what to do, you can always get better, stronger, and a more developed upper back, shoulder, chest area with those bad boys. So bunch of different styles, a bunch of different techniques, but you can use them for side handle deadlifts. I use them for mindset challenges like doing sled drags along while holding farmer's handles. Of course, strongman medleys, endurance things like 1 mile farmer's carry. It's always a bad day. I do a lot of single arm stuff for core work. They are so versatile and you can do so many cool things with them. I would highly recommend farmer's handles as part of anyone's gym. And of course, if you don't have farmer's handles, you can use something like a trap bar or dumbbells, or even there are a lot of mobile farmer's handles now that are more like straps so you guys would pick up. But man, one of my favorite exercises, and whenever I don't know something to put in, you can always fall back on farmer's handles. And the 8th piece of equipment on our countdown of greatness is a sled. So I have a lot of different types of sleds here at the gym, and this is actually my least favorite. However, it was the closest one to put up there, so that's why you're seeing that one. Anyway, I use sleds for a lot of different things, from the normal conditioning type of stuff where you're pushing it, you're pulling it. I drag it arm over arm. I do rows with it. I do truck pull basic simulations with it, pulling it forwards, pulling it backwards. I will even do core variations with this. For me personally, the sled is a tool that shows up almost every single workout in some form or fashion, so I really couldn't do a gym without it. So yeah, that's why it's on the list. Now number 7 on our list ends up being the Glutei Ham Raise, because this is how I finish virtually every single squat and deadlift workout. It will either be this or the reverse hyper or both, but almost always these are a fallback. This is like doing pull-ups for me. Every single workout I end up doing something like this, and even on my upper body days I will turn over and do something like Glutei Ham Raise halos or some ab work or something else with this. It is a awesome piece of equipment that is way too expensive for what it is. However, it is indispensable if you want to have any sort of strong posterior chain. If you want a good deadlift, you want a good squat, this thing is a staple for everyone who has ever achieved that goal. Yeah, that's 7. Number 6 on my list of things that I use all the time would be the axle. Now, all that an axle really is like a barbell that's fat. It doesn't have any knurling. It's harder to hold on to. It doesn't rotate. I've done an entire video about why an axle is so worth it for your training. However, all that I really use it for is basically a swap out for a lot of my barbell exercises. So something like a barbell row, maybe something like 225 or 250 pounds for me is a pretty easy weight for me to do for a bunch of reps. But if I throw 225 or 250 on this, because of the grip being so much harder to hold on to, it gets so much more challenging. It works a lot of different things. Now, a lot of people have told me that working your upper body, even like bench pressing and overhead pressing with this, will still help your grip. I'm not really sure how. I don't want to doubt those people. I don't want to say they're full of it, but I don't really understand. But what I will say is that when I'm pretty beat up, because a lot of times there's spots on your body that get a lot of overuse, and for a lot of us, that is right on the heel of your hand. So anytime that I'm having a lot of stones, a lot of pressing, a lot of barbells, dumbbells, logs, all kinds of things on those palms of my hand, sometimes when I'm going extremely heavy day after day, it will start to bother me. And I will say that using an axle kind of dissipates that pressure just a little bit. So an axle is actually a lot more forgiving on my hands than something else. Also, another point is for maybe some people who haven't been training as long, or for some of the women who watch the channel. Thanks, Mom. Most axle starting weight is around 20 to 25 pounds. So if someone's not ready for a barbell yet, a lot of times they can jump with this, and it's not like you need to buy a specialty barbell that can only be used very, very lightweight. It is an axle that you can also use for other activities. So it's just an easy way to get more bang for that one piece of equipment. Yeah. Number 5 is a log. So you can't really replicate a log. A lot of people email me and ask, hey man, I have a log coming up competition, but I don't have access to one. How can I try to mimic that movement? And I always tell them, like, you can't really. Like, the clean is a different movement. It's not really a clean. Like, the press is so awkward because the log's so big that you're in a different position than you are in any other type press. So a log is something that I use all the time, and especially since I'm involved in strongman, this thing shows up in more than not in competition. So very, very important to be good with it, but also it gives me that neutral grip again, kind of like the Swiss bar. So I will use this for an incline bench press. I'll use it for floor presses, all types of overhead presses, of course, on my overhead press day. But then I will also use it on my lower body days as well for an explosive movement prior to my main muscle mover. So I might do a log clean, a heavy log clean before I do some deadlifts, or a viper press before I go into a squat. It's just another way to get my hips moving explosively before I go into those big power movements. And a log is an awesome way to just get something rolling up your body, and it's a completely different feel, plus looks kind of cool. Number 4 is sandbags. Number 4 is apparently my dogs. Sandbags are a super versatile thing if you're gonna be doing some sort of carrying or loading over a bar or anything like that. A lot of people want to get involved with Atlas stones, but Atlas stones take up a lot of space. They're hard to find, their molds are expensive, plus they beat you up. Same thing with kegs. They're tough to get a hold of, they can be really expensive, and they definitely beat your body up. However, a sandbag, no matter how sweaty you are, how beat up you are, how anything you are, you can always scoop that thing up and go. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be fun. These things are absolutely punishing. However, they are a terrific training tool, and I would highly recommend doing that. The only thing that I will say is that if you are gonna do sandbags, you can't just buy one. So you can't just have one 200-pound sandbag and you can only use that for carries. You have to have at least 2 where you have one light one and one heavy one maybe for like sandbag over shoulder or sandbag loading, one for carrying, one for whatever you're gonna be using the exercise for. But changing sand in and out of a sandbag or in and out of a keg is not much fun whatsoever. So I would highly encourage spending a little extra money, get an extra sandbag, but these things I use constantly. The third thing on my countdown of most used pieces of gym equipment, wow, a lot of words, is the yoke. Now, if I was going to do a very small setup, something like a 1-car garage kind of gym, a yoke would actually be my power rack, because as you guys can see, you can throw J-cups on it. It can be a squat rack, it could be a bench rack, it could be a lot of different things. Use as a sled, you can load things over it. You can use it for limbo. You can actually carry it as a yoke like it's designed. Use it for waiter's walks, Zercher yoke carries. There are so many different things that you can use a yoke for. We even use it for like sticking PVC pipe out of it to throw sandbags over top as like the base. They're very, very versatile and a great piece of equipment. Plus you can just slide this thing off and just stack it against the wall. It doesn't really take up much space. So this thing is awesome for home gyms. However, I use this all of the time because of all the things I just explained. It's a constant in my workout. So for me personally, if I started all over again, yoke would definitely be one of the first things that I picked up. Number 2 on my countdown, surprisingly, even to me, is resistance bands. So these are something I was introduced to pretty recently, honestly, only a couple years ago when I started doing conjugate for the first time ever, and I discovered accommodating resistance and how much that helps just your lifts in general, your explosiveness. It is such an awesome tool to use. So I use bands for a lot of my major lifts. I will also use it not only to load down the barbell when I'm doing big lifts like a deadlift or a squat, but I'll wrap it around my back for something like a dumbbell bench press to add more resistance. You can also use them to assist you with dips or pull-ups. But in reality, these things actually take up a lot of the work that like a cable machine would do for me. So if I want to do like a single leg curl or a face pull or tricep extensions, that is what all these bands are doing when they're not doing the accommodating resistance stuff. So they're absolutely invaluable. That's why they're number 2. The reason why they're number 2 isn't because it's cool or sexy. It's simply because they show up virtually every single time I'm working out. I'm walking over and grabbing a band and do something with it. So yeah, even for things like instability training, like hanging them off of a bamboo bar or a earthquake bar or a regular barbell to add a little bit of shake to your movement on waiters walks or bench press, can do an absolute lot along with rehab, your warm up, everything like that. So yeah, bands are definitely always there. They show up in my competition bag when I go they're just, yeah, get bands. And number 1 on my list of things that I use constantly at my gym has to be the SSB, or safety squat bar, Yoke bar if you bought it from Elite FTS. Guys, this thing is something that if I have weight on my back doing a lower body day, there's some point that thing's gonna show up. It's either on my lunges, my Bulgarian split squats, my regular squats, my hands wide squats, good mornings, seated good mornings. It is always showing up because it is just easier on my shoulders to not be stretched back like this all the time. Plus the fact that like I can take my hands off to do other things. It is just so versatile. I absolutely love this bar. If there was one other bar that I was gonna get after a barbell, it would 100% be this, just because I use it so much. Even if people can't do front squats, I can flip this thing around, do a little bit of front squat action. It's not quite as good as a normal front squat, but hey, at least you're doing something. There's so much you can do with this thing, and I know I've done entire videos on a couple of these pieces of equipment to include this, to really expand upon what you can do with it and why it is so valuable. However, for me personally, number 1 on my list, if I were gonna start a gym all over again, after I got the dumbbells, the barbells, the benches, the normal stuff, SSB, because it has done more for my squat, my deadlift, my posterior chain, just everything is just an awesome piece of equipment. I can't recommend this thing enough. Oh, but people do always ask me whether I prefer the Rogue version or the Elite FTS version. To be honest with you, I've never used the Elite FTS version, so I love the Rogue one. I would honestly say go with whatever is on sale. I have no affiliation with Rogue, none with Elite FTS. Those people are not interested in a little person like me. So I will tell you, get whatever is cheapest because they're both gonna affect pretty much the same way when it comes to getting something out of your squat and deadlift. All right, guys, there you go. Those are my top 10 pieces of equipment that show up in my programming constantly. If not every single day, at least every single week, those things will be part of whatever is going on and whatever punishment I decide to do. I'm not recommending that you pick up the same things unless you train in a very similar fashion. You need to figure out what's gonna work best for you and the things that you are kind of focused on, where your goals are, and getting the best equipment that can be as efficient as possible in getting you there. And for me, these are those. All right, guys, so I hope that helps you out. Some exciting news coming up. I just booked a trip to Sacramento, so I will be doing a little bit of collaboration action with both Mark Bell as well as Alan Thrall in the next couple of weeks time. Just booked my plane, my hotel, all that stuff. So really pleased about that. That's gonna be coming up. Other than that, guys, I will catch up with you later in the week, but until I do, go out to something amazing in your lives. Keep working hard. I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you then.